You prayed, you waited, you believed, and still, nothing. You tried to stay faithful when everything inside you wanted to quit. You kept showing up, kept whispering hope into the silence. But now, that silence feels louder than ever. It's like God has gone quiet, like heaven turned its face, like your prayers hit a wall and never came back. You've watched others get their breakthrough. You've clapped for their answered prayers. You've smiled at their testimonies while quietly wondering why yours never came. And maybe you've asked the question you were afraid to say out loud. Did God forget me? Because that's what it feels like, doesn't it? Like you're doing all the right things, but nothing's moving. Like you're stuck in place while everyone else is running forward. Like the weight on your chest is growing heavier and the silence is starting to sound a lot like rejection. But hear this, you're not alone in that feeling. David felt it too. So did Job. So did Jesus in the garden. My God, why have you forsaken me? Even the Son of God cried that out. That moment wasn't weakness, it was honesty. And maybe that's what God is inviting you into. Not a polished performance, not a strong front, but raw honesty. Because you can't heal from a wound you're still pretending doesn't hurt. It's okay to say, God, I feel forgotten. It's okay to admit, I'm tired of waiting. It's okay to whisper, I don't understand what you're doing. Because that kind of honesty is the beginning of real faith. Not a faith that needs answers to keep going, but one that keeps walking even when there's only questions. What if God's silence isn't absence? What if it's actually preparation? See, sometimes God doesn't move the mountain right away because He's doing something deeper in the valley. He's not ignoring you, He's growing you, quietly, faithfully, intentionally. Think about seeds. They don't grow in sunlight alone. They take root in the dark. And that's what might be happening now. Not punishment, not distance, but deep work beneath the surface. God may not be changing your situation yet because first, He's forming something in you. Patience, trust, depth. But that's hard to see when all you feel is stillness. So let this be your reminder. You are not forgotten. You are seen, even when you feel invisible. You are held, even when you feel like falling. You are loved, even when the silence makes you question everything. God doesn't forget His children. He never has. He never will. In Isaiah 49, God says, "Can a mother forget her nursing child? Though she may forget, I will not forget you. See, I have engraved you on the palms of my hands. Your name, your story, your struggle, written on His hands. He hasn't walked away. He's walking with you, even when you don't feel it. He's not quiet because He doesn't care. Sometimes He's quiet because He's close. And maybe the miracle isn't that He changes everything right now. Maybe it's that He's holding you through it all. So don't stop showing up. Don't stop hoping. Don't stop talking to Him, even if all you can say is, God, I'm still here. Because sometimes, the most powerful prayer isn't loud. It's the whispered, I still trust you, in the middle of the silence. You've prayed, you've waited, and still, nothing, no shift, no sign, no answer. And the silence begins to echo louder than your faith. But here's something you need to hold on to. God's delays are never random. They're never cruel. They are crafted with love, even when they hurt. When Jesus heard that Lazarus was sick, He didn't rush, He waited. And in that waiting, something incredible was unfolding. Not just a healing, but a resurrection. What you call delay might be God setting the stage for something greater than what you asked for. Because sometimes if God answered when you wanted, you'd miss what He really wanted to give you. So no, He hasn't forgotten you. He's just writing a different story than the one you imagined. A deeper one, a wiser one. A story where your roots go down before the fruit comes up. And yes, waiting is hard. It tests your soul. It stretches your trust. It feels like walking blind. But even blindfolded by confusion or pain, you're still held by a God who never lets go. And maybe, just maybe, that's the point. To teach you to rely not on what you see, but who you know. You may feel forgotten, but heaven knows your name. Your sighs are heard. Your tears are counted. Your hope is not wasted. Even when the world moves on, even when friends don't understand, even when you question your own strength, God remains. Not watching from a distance, but walking right beside you. And one day, when the silence breaks and the light returns, you'll see what he was doing all along. So don't quit here. The story isn't over. The silence is not the end. It's just a sacred pause before the next chapter begins. There's something about the silence that teaches you what comfort never could. When everything is stripped away, when prayers seem unanswered, when doors stay closed, when hope feels thin, that's where deep faith is born. Not the loud kind, not the faith that dances in the spotlight, but the kind that clings in the dark, the kind that whispers, "Even if I can't see it, I will still believe." Job knew that kind of silence. He lost everything, his wealth, his family, his health. And God, for a long time, said nothing. And yet Job said, "Though he slay me, yet will I trust in him." That's not weak faith. That's not blind positivity. That's warrior faith, the kind that's been through the fire and still holds on. And maybe that's what God is doing in you right now. Maybe he's not ignoring you. Maybe he's strengthening you. Maybe he's showing you how to walk by trust, not by sight. Maybe he's allowing your roots to go deep before the fruit appears, because shallow faith collapses when storms hit. But faith that's been through the silence, that faith stands. And when the silence finally breaks, and it will, you'll look back and realize God was there in every moment. He wasn't far. He wasn't late. He was shaping you. You'll see how every unanswered prayer wasn't forgotten. It was woven into something better. How every quiet night was a night he sat beside you. How every tear you cried was gathered, not wasted. And slowly, you'll begin to understand. You were never forgotten. You were being formed. You were being formed in the stillness, in the ache, in the waiting. God does some of his deepest work in seasons that feel the most silent. Not because he's cruel, but because he's kind enough not to give you something you're not yet ready to carry. You've been asking for the answer, the breakthrough, the open door. But maybe God's been answering you the whole time, just not in the way you expected. Not with noise, but with depth, not with signs, but with shaping. Because what God is building in you requires more than quick comfort. It requires a strong foundation. And sometimes the only way to build that foundation is through moments that feel like absence but are actually presence. Think of the seed in the soil. It's buried, it's hidden, it's alone. But under the surface, transformation is happening. Roots are reaching down, stability is forming. And in time, that seed will rise. But not before it's ready, not before the hidden work is done. You're not being buried, you're being planted. There's a future in you that God is preparing. But the weight of that future requires a rooted soul. So if all you can do right now is stay, do that. If all you can do is whisper, "God, I still trust you," that's enough. You don't need loud faith. You just need real faith. Faith that keeps showing up. Faith that believes God sees even when no one else does. Faith that knows you are never truly alone, even when it feels like it. And one day soon, what felt like a forgotten season will become the foundation for everything God is about to do. And when that season shifts, when the clouds finally break and the light starts to shine through, you'll carry something more valuable than answers. You'll carry depth. You'll carry a trust that wasn't built on feelings, but forged in silence. A trust that doesn't need constant signs to stay steady. A trust that remembers. He was faithful in the dark. He'll be faithful still. Because here's the truth. You're not behind. You're not disqualified. You're not forgotten. You're being prepared. Prepared to walk in purpose without being shaken by pressure. Prepared to love people deeply without needing validation from them. Prepared to hear God in the chaos because you first learned to hear him in the quiet. And that kind of preparation, it's priceless. The people God uses the most are often the ones who've been through the longest seasons of silence. Think of Moses, 40 years in the desert before leading a nation. Think of Joseph, forgotten in a prison before stepping into his calling. Even Jesus spent 30 quiet years before 3 years of public ministry. Heaven doesn't rush. God's timeline doesn't match the world's timeline. So if it feels like everything's slow, if it feels like God is quiet, if you've been wondering if he still sees you, he does. He sees every hidden prayer, every faithful step, every moment you chose not to give up. And one day, the things you thought were delays will be revealed as divine design. So hold on. Don't let silence trick you into giving up. God hasn't stopped writing your story. He's just deepening the plot. And when you look back, months from now, maybe years, you'll start to see the thread. The way God wove purpose through the waiting. The way He planted strength in the silence. The way He didn't just bring you through, but made you more whole in the process. Because He wasn't just working around you, He was working within you. That ache you feel, it's not the absence of God. It's the stretching of your spirit, growing in ways comfort never could. You wanted breakthrough, but He was building resilience. You wanted answers, but He was anchoring your identity. You wanted out, but He wanted you to go deeper. And now there's a part of you that knows how to stand firm in storms, how to rest when things are unclear, how to stay when it would have been easier to run. That's what makes you dangerous to the enemy. Not your perfection, not your performance, but your perseverance. Because you didn't quit when it got quiet. You didn't stop showing up when the feelings faded. You chose to trust anyway. That kind of trust, it moves heaven. It shakes darkness. It becomes the foundation God builds legacy on. So if you're still waiting, still wondering, still walking through the quiet, you're in holy company. You're in the middle of becoming. There's something sacred about staying when it would be easier to leave. Something holy about showing up with faith that's been worn thin but still standing. It's not dramatic, it's not loud, but heaven sees it, and God honors it. Because even when your hands are trembling, if they're still reaching for Him, that's worship. Even when your voice is weak, if you're still whispering prayers, that's warfare. Even when your heart feels numb, if you're still choosing hope, that's victory. You don't need to be the loudest. You don't need to be the strongest. You just need to stay close. And in that nearness, something shifts. You start to hear Him again, not in the way you expected, but in the details, in the warmth of sunlight on your skin, in the scripture that hits different this time, in the breath that feels lighter for no reason at all. That's God. He's not shouting over the storm, He's whispering through it. And if you're listening, really listening, you'll hear Him say, I never left, I never forgot. I'm still writing beauty into your story. Because even in the stillness, He was shaping something stronger in you. And maybe that was the point all along. Not to make life easier, but to make your heart steadier. Not to take the pain away immediately, but to teach you that you can still be whole, even while you heal. So stay, just a little longer. The silence won't last forever, and neither will the heaviness. One day, without warning, the shift begins. Not in fireworks, not with a booming voice from heaven, but in something small. Maybe it's the first deep breath that doesn't feel heavy. Maybe it's a line in scripture that feels like it was written just for you. Maybe it's peace, not all-consuming, but steady, settling over your soul like a soft blanket. And in that moment, you realize something. God didn't forget you. He was preparing you for a deeper trust, a wider capacity, a stronger foundation. Because the you that stands here now is not the same person who started this season. There's more stillness in your spirit, more wisdom in your steps, more empathy in your words. And no, the pain didn't magically vanish. But you're no longer crushed under its weight. That's what grace does. It holds you together while God is healing you from the inside out. You used to measure God's love by what He did for you. Now you measure it by the fact that He never left you. That kind of love, it doesn't shout. It stays. It carries. It builds. So even if the next season holds more questions, even if silence comes again, you'll know what to do. You'll remember what to hold on to. Not your emotions, not your timeline, but the truth. God is always near, even in the silence, especially in the silence, because it's there, in the quietest moments, that the deepest faith is formed. So here you are, not at the beginning, not at the end, but somewhere in between. And that's okay, because faith isn't a finish line you cross. It's a daily choice you make, to believe even in the quiet, to show up even when it's hard, to love God not just for what He does, but for who He is. You may not have all the answers. You may still carry some questions. But what you have now is something more valuable. Anchored hope. Hope that doesn't depend on circumstances. Hope that doesn't fade with your feelings. Hope that stays, even when everything else shakes. And this is what it means to walk with God. Not perfectly, not fearlessly, but honestly, to bring your doubts and still stay close, to carry your weariness and still whisper, I trust you. You've learned that God's silence was never punishment, it was presence, just in a quieter form. He never forgot you. He was forming you, and now you carry that truth forward into every storm, every valley, every long night to come. You carry the proof that you were never abandoned, that love never walked away. So the next time you feel forgotten, the next time heaven seems quiet, remember this moment. Remember what you've come through. Remember the strength that grew in the silence. Remember the whisper that said, I'm still here. I always have been. Let that be your anthem, because even in the silence, especially in the silence, God speaks, and His love never forgets.